Thanks so much, Sarana. And we're going to be taking some questions. So I'll turn it over to you.
I don't have any questions for Sarana. Zeke does. Was that a question, Summer, or were you stretching?
Question. But
okay. Well, let's start with Zeke and we'll go to Summer. Second.
Thanks, Sarana. On the local radio station 2 or 3 days ago, and you said that there's been some things changed with the 2-dam proposal on the LCR, so this may not really apply right now. But on the local radio station a couple of days ago, they made the comment that the company that's proposing this stated if the Big Canyon project was approved, they would drop the proposal for the other dams. And that was almost verbatim the way that they said it. It's kind of like, well, if you just give us the Big Canyon project, we'll forget about the other ones. Would you like to address that?
I did not hear that radio station, but I think Roger might have. Do you have anything to add on that one, Roger? You're on mute.
So Steve Irwin spoke to the Arizona Republic, Arizona Daily Sun, and also I think the radio station was quoting the Republic, where he said that basically he realized that putting dams in the main stem of the Little Colorado River was a problem, and he thought he could eliminate 80% of his problems by putting it in the dry side canyon of Big Canyon and put in 3 humongous wells that would tap into the same aquifer that feeds the springs along the LCR and fill a 44,000 acre foot main reservoir and then pump up on a daily basis 27,000 acre feet for storage, and same day flush it back down and send a ginormous amount of electricity out onto the Western grid, 1.6 times that of Navajo Generating Station. So yeah, sorry. It is a quid pro quo kind of thing. It's like, hey, just kidding on the other 2 dams. We know they're horrendous, but if you just give us Big Canyon, everything's cool. We're calling bullshit.
I presume that those wells would be tapping the aquifer that feeds Blue Springs?
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing below that. Talk to Laura Crossy. You might hit that that high pressure thing that forms, where fence fault comes across and that carbonated water comes bubbling up. That's old water.
Right. So it could be artesian.
Yeah. It could be. On the map, it shows they're just putting the wells in the floodplain of the LCR. So one could argue they're just tapping into the surface water.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification.
Summer?
that actually answered my question. So.
Oh, check that out.
Got a twofer.
Does anyone else have any questions for Sarana?
I have a question. Is there anything coming from the reservation, Hopi, Dene, Zuni, Havasupai, with the river opening up again, about your opinions on whether or not you want river trips to stop at the LCR or Havasupai? Do you guys have any thoughts on the river reopening and if you want your sites visited?
Yeah, I actually was in a meeting with Havasupai Tribal Council a couple weeks ago, and we had talked about the intertribal centennial work and also what's going on out there with my tribe with COVID and just any other updated information that I could give them. They did ask me about, we did talk about the reopening of park, and under that reopening of the park, they said that they had heard that the river was going to open up and that the trips were going to start up again. And they had expressed some worry and some concern about that because there is no COVID cases in Havasupai. They have not gone in, they have not gone out, and nobody has gone in and out except just for people delivering goods, but the helicopter crew does not go out of the helicopter, they just deliver goods. And they're very cautious about the goods that they receive, and they do sanitize a lot of the things that come in. And they have had some family members that are in Wallapai who have been impacted because Wallapai, I believe, has way over 30 cases. I'm not sure what it is right now, but some of their family members have passed on that are up there. And so the concern is that they wish to not have any boats, private or concessionaire trips, stop anywhere near the canyon that goes into their area because they are afraid of people coming in, and they have had people hike down into the canyon and go around those roadblocks and those other things that they have put up and past security, and they have had one or two people stumble into the village, and they're like, whoa, what are you doing here? How'd you get through everything? And they're immediately airlifted out, and they're followed out by their own tribal police. So they don't want the same thing happening from the river coming up. They don't want to stumble across somebody that's just like that comes in from the river. They're really, if you have a village that has 0 cases, they want to keep it 0 cases because they know how out of hand it can be. And we've seen a lot of cases like that, like from the Amazon and Alaska and many other remote places where somebody thinks, oh, there's no cases there and I'll be safe there, and unknowingly bring something in there. So yeah, they would love to not have anybody stop at their little confluence area. As for our area of the LCR, I would think, in my mind, I would be very cautious because if that is a ceremonial trail for many, and who are, especially in this COVID time, where we're all doing prayers that this will be over, this pandemic, and we're praying for many others in our own families and our friends and our other relatives out there, including tribes. I would think that I would be very cautious that there might be a group of people going down that salt trail to offer prayer, and I would not want to get them infected too if there was, heaven forbid, there was somebody carrying something on one of the trips, or vice versa.
Do you know if this has been communicated to either the park or how would it be best to get that information to both concessionaires as well as private trips as trips start?
I would think that and now I'm thinking politics, is that I would be thinking that Hopi tribe, not Hopi, the Havasupai tribe would have to write a statement letter, and that would go out to Grand Canyon National Park, and that could be disseminated to the concessionaires out there, and possibly, if I don't know how we convey that to the private trips out there, but I think just a formalized letter is something that probably we should ask, or since they asked me, I could probably talk to them and say that would be beneficial.
Well, I think private trips will still need to be checking in at Lee's Ferry with the park. So I would imagine getting that information to the park would allow that information to then get to the rangers who are checking people in, the private trips that are checking in. Mm. We don't always know how.
Yeah, and that makes me think, if you're taking out, where are you taking out at? And if Wallapai is blocked, the road's actually blocked off, and then how does that happen with Wallapai too?
Yeah, I haven't heard from companies that we're taking out on the Wallapai Reservation if they are planning to just go down to Pierce. Does anyone know that? Has anyone heard? I hadn't heard that the road was closed, but that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to hit Diamond on the 30th. The information that we were given at Canyoneers was that the Wallapai were going to open up on July 1st.
Oh,
So just missed that one. I think it's still evolving. It sounds like it's because they're supposed to be running trips too, so they're using the road.
yeah, they're trying to come up with their own protocols. I was contacted by Grand Canyon 9 the other day, and the Wallapai tribe is looking to them to figure out what kind of mitigation measures that they can take and that kind of thing. So, so I steered them to the document that's on the Western River Expeditions website, which is their well-developed or extensive plan. But I did see, Sarana, I did see, it seemed like an official thing from the Havasupai tribe that talked about people needing to respect their boundaries and how they were worried about it in relationship to COVID and that kind of thing. So I think there's something that they've put out there already.
Okay. I can double check with them and text them, and then I'll get back with you, Lynn, on that.
Yeah, because that would be great to just be able to disseminate if there is something official, because I think a lot of people in the river community are really wanting to be respectful because we're all scared, and we realize what this, how high the stakes are for the tribes, and with the huge impact on the Navajo reservation, as well as the the Havasupai tribe being so small, to any incident in there is just a tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think we might have time for one more question. I saw Claire's hand. Claire, do you still have a question?
Sure, yeah. Sarana, you mentioned internships, and it sounds like they've been kind of like a good thing with the park and Grand Canyon Trust. And I was wondering if there's plans or interest in internships within the commercial river world.
Yes, we had talked about that. There's in providing education and that education model that the group has, we would like to have more of our indigenous youth not just educate there on the rim, but we're also looking at the prospect of is there businesses that are running, not just Wallapai, but is there a Hopi group, is there a Navajo group that are currently running? And if so, we need to talk with them and see how it is that we can bring them into this framework of the Intertribal Centennial Group. But as for us creating or looking to create an internship with a river company, I have not talked with anybody about that, but that would be a really great idea, because I know there are many people who would love to be on the river and talk about the issues that are out there.
Sarana, it's Roger. We do have the trip next summer with Grand Canyon Youth, with elders and youth. So that's kind of another aspect of getting young people on the river for learning, and possibly some will take a liking to the water. Get another Beep or a Nikki Cooley or the next generation.
Or Colleen Cooley, who's listening online.
Yep, she's there somewhere. I've done a trip with her. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much. Oh, hold on one second. Colleen I'm just going to read it because it's in the chat, but everyone could read this. Even if commercial and private trips are aware of tribal restrictions, I think trips are still going to happen. Just like when the Grand Canyon National Park opened in Memorial Day weekend, even though the Navajo Nation was still on a 57-hour weekend curfew. So I don't know if you want to say a little bit more about that, Colleen, or if that encapsulated what you wanted to say.
I don't know. I think it's difficult in what I've seen and witnessed with tribes and that were impacted greatly, just as Sarana alluded to, with, availability and access to water and electricity, we're limited. And it sounds like a number of companies are planning already to go down the river, even though it's still, I think, even though we're still in a vulnerable state with this COVID virus. And so even if there's restrictions or Zeke, as you mentioned, mentioned that maybe the roads are going to be opened on July 1st, that could change also. It keeps changing with Navajo Nation with these lockdowns and restrictions. It's kind of week by week, it seems like. So I don't know if these companies or private trips or even Grand Canyon National Park have plans to, have alternative plans when it comes to trips and having people come in from all over. And we don't know if they are infected with this virus or not. So that's kind of my comment, is like, is it really, it's really up to the company, and it's also up to you all on this call, because I know some of you are working for some of these companies and also have done private trips on this river as well. So I think it's just using your best judgment and ultimately your decision whether you choose to go on this river when all this is still happening. That's my comment and concern.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Could I add something to this? Is that
Of course.
when this kind of goes in line with the things that are on the river. I know places that you cannot take people to, or you can't make stops at, but I know private companies, the private trips, they will stop in some certain places. And those are a concern. And when you have people who are not abiding by the rules, this is even like with COVID right now too, but if you don't have somebody that's abiding by the rules and they're like, oh, well, so-and-so did that and I saw them, so I think it's okay, and then that invites it just sets a stage for random, I'm going to use lawlessness to go, as things to happen like that. And we're educators, all of us are educators out there on the river, and if you see something that shouldn't be done, always speak up. We always have a cultural, when I'm on the trip, I usually talk about the culturalness of everything. And with Save the Confluence, there's things like where we don't yell around out there, and because you're disrupting our deities that are out there. And there's a lot of other things that we've got to be cautious of, and we gotta know that there's other things out there that you cannot see, and that's how we look at it from an indigenous perspective. And we're cognizant of like being very respectful out there. And that respectfulness is like today, my talk with Sipai was, there's that person that passed away recently in Wallapai, but they want to bring this person back home into the canyon. And so because they're in a remote area, they don't know that the issues that are happening out there revolving COVID. It's just what they see. They're not actually in contact with it, living through it, seeing it. They're not at the grocery stores like us. They're in a very enclosed area. And so how does one deal with somebody returning home, and how do you pay respects when you can't do the things you once traditionally did by doing a ceremonial wash on the body that just left, or how do you not say bye in those manners that we know of? And it's a very hard complex question or conversation I had today, and it made me think about this is like a little alien world over there, and it's just so secluded that even just trying to do their traditional things is really a very difficult concept for them to grasp, and even for them to finally acknowledge that they can't do anything about the proper way of doing a burial, and even that coming together and doing a gathering is also very dangerous. And even though there's no cases in there, they're still scared to be around one another. And it's very complex today, and they're just, there's a lot of uncertainty and confusion, and if something was to happen and that was to actually be brought in, then they haven't seen it. They just hear what they see on social media and TV, and they wouldn't know how. Like, it'd be like a firestorm. It would just go. So just keep that in mind when we're anywhere, not just with COVID, but with the cultural resources that are out there, and being respectful of the canyon, and knowing that those places are still alive with prayers and ceremony, and generations of people have gone there since when it was first created.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
So much for giving that perspective, and I wish everyone could hear that, because I think sometimes there is a desire for people to be respectful, and they don't always know what that is or what that looks like. So hopefully at least the group here can disseminate some of that, and hopefully they'll get some information from the tribes about what they feel would be helpful in this time, this really unprecedented time of being on the river, because there will be river trips, and how we deal with those really sensitive places. So thank you for your perspective. Why don't we take a few minute break, just like a quick bathroom break, and then we'll come right back. So like 3 minutes.